Before we do any of our own configuration on a Cisco router, we might want to see what the current configuration is. This is called the running configuration. By the way, in order to look at the running configuration, we need to be in privileged mode. You can tell that I'm in privileged mode right now by this prompt. You see I'm at a # prompt. If I were at a greater than sign prompt, I would not be in privilege mode. I would be in user mode. And in user mode, I'm not able to see the running config. Let me show you how we go back and forth between those modes. I can say disable. To go back to user mode, notice the prompt changes to a greater than sign. If I want to go into privilege mode, I say enable. And we could set this up where a password is going to be required. We probably should do that, and we'll see how to do that in a later video. But you see, I am in privilege mode right now. Now I can look at the running configuration, and here's the command. I can say show running -config. I used tab autocomplete to get that command on screen. I could just say show run as a shortcut, but let's take a look at this output. As I'm looking at the running configuration, if I want to advance the output one line at a time, I could press the enter key. Notice every time I press enter, we see one more line. If I want to advance a screen at a time, I can press the spacebar key as I'm doing now. And some configurations are fairly lengthy. We might have to hit the spacebar multiple times in order to see the entire configuration. So let me share with you a few shortcuts for looking through the running configuration. For example, down toward the bottom of this output, we've got our line configurations. Let me show you some shortcut ways of looking at that output. One, we could say show, run, and using the vertical bar on the keyboard, that's called the pipe symbol, I could pipe to an output modifier. If we take a look at context sensitive help by pressing question mark, we're going to use these modifiers. I'm going to say begin, and I'm going to say section. In fact, I'll use the abbreviations for those. I'll say show run pipe to B for begin, and I want to begin with the very first instance of the word line in the output. Let's begin line, and instead of having to wade through page after page after page of output, it jumps me directly down to the line area. And then it continues with the rest of the output, which includes some stuff that's not really related to the line, so we can clean this up a bit. We could do a show run pipe to S for section line. Notice the indentions under line console 0, underline VTY 04. That means these line commands are sections. And we can look at the line command and everything that's indented below them, everything within those sections. Show run pipe to section line is going to give us the output that contains just the sections of the output for the line configurations. Let's say we were doing this though. Let's say I was doing a show run, and I'm scrolling through page after page after page of output, and I want to jump immediately to the first instance of the word line. Here's a way to do that. I could tap the / key on my keyboard in the midst of looking at my running config. I just tapped the / key where it said more. Instead of pressing enter, instead of pressing a spacebar, I pressed the / key. That's the one under the question mark. And I'm going to type in the string that I'm looking for. I'm looking for the word line. Now I'm going to press enter, and look at this. From within the midst of my running config, it jumps me immediately. It says it's filtering, and it jumps me immediately down to the first instance of the word line in the output. And talking about these modifiers, here's another one that I use fairly frequently. It's the include option. This is not going to show me sections of output. This is going to show me only those configuration lines that contain the specified word. Let's do a show run pipe to I for include. And we've been using line for begin line, for section line. Let's see what it looks like for include line. If I say include line, notice it doesn't give me any of the commands under the line configuration modes. It only shows me configuration commands that contain, that include that specified string. One of the primary things we're going to be configuring on a Cisco router is an interface. We can have various interface types. Maybe we've got fast Ethernet interfaces. Maybe we have serial interfaces. There's a wide variety of interfaces supported in our Cisco routers. If we want to get an overview of the interfaces that we have installed, here's my absolute favorite command for doing that. In fact, this is my favorite command in all of Cisco iOS, and it is show IP interface brief. It gives us a brief overview of our installed interfaces. Here's some of the key information that it gives us. It identifies the interface, such as loopback 0. It tells us the IP address assigned to that interface, and it tells us the operational status. Are we up at layer 1? Are we up at layer 2? Notice my loopback interface is in the up state. That means layer 1 is up, that's under status, and it means layer 2 is up, that's under protocol. Here's an interface, Fast Ethernet 0/1. It is administratively shut down, which most interfaces are by default. So I know it's administratively down. If an interface is down, but it's not administratively down, then there's an issue with the connection between that interface and what's on the far end of that connection. But notice from the output, we're getting a great summary of the interfaces we have installed in this router, and if we wanted to get more granular and see more information about a specific interface, we could do this. We could say, show me more information about Fast Ethernet 0/0. Let's do a show interface Fast Ethernet 0/0. And if I had a description configured for this interface, I could see that. If there were an IP address associated with this interface, we would see that. The way I have this interface configured, I'm doing something we'll talk about later called a router on a stick, where sub-interfaces have IP addresses, but the main interface does not. So the sub-interfaces, they're the ones that have the IP addresses. More on that later. We can also see the duplex and the speed. I'm running full duplex at 100 megabits per second. And if I wanted to see how much traffic is passing through this interface, I can get a 5-minute average of the input traffic in bits per second and an output average as well. Right now, in this laboratory environment, I don't have very much traffic going through these interfaces, so the average rate is 0 bits per second. But in a production network, this output could give us a great sense of how saturated an interface is.